Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are and I hope you're staying safe. Hola a todos, bienvenidos a mi canal. Espero que estén teniendo un gran día. So in today's video, I wanted to go back to some content for international students, and also it does apply to you if you are a non-resident when it comes to filing tax returns. It is a very scary thing. It can be a very confusing process, especially if you have never had to deal with IRS before. I do have a video on my channel talking about the process with filing taxes with Sprintax, and please don't judge me. I made that video in the beginning of my YouTube channel. It wasn't the best quality, but it does give you important information for filing taxes with Sprintax. But today I wanted to cover some additional questions that you may have when filing with Sprintax or maybe filing taxes as a non-resident alien. So one of the top questions that I did receive was, what if I missed the April 15th deadline when filing taxes? So April 15th is the national deadline for everybody to submit taxes. As a non-resident alien, you can submit your taxes after the April 15th deadline. In fact, you can submit your taxes as late as up to 3 years after the original tax filing deadline. So that is kind of an amazing thing, that you technically as a non-resident won't be penalized for submitting your taxes late, quote unquote. However, if you do end up owing something in taxes and you don't submit it on time, if you don't pay it by the specific deadline, you will be penalized for that. You will be acquiring interest on the stuff that you owe to them. And the only way to find out whether or not you owe taxes in the first place would be to utilize something like Sprintax, for example, because once you fill out all the information and everything, it will give you a summary of how much you actually owe in taxes and how much you will be receiving in returns. But if you do wait 3 years to not submit your taxes, you may by the time acquire a lot of interest on the stuff that you did owe like 3 years ago. So I highly suggest that you do submit this by the deadline, by April 15th, because it can result in some issues, especially if you are for example, an OPT worker, or even how I was doing an internship and I was submitting a 1099, and a 1099 form is basically a form for independent contractors. So a lot of times when you're working on something like a 1099 contract, the employer doesn't charge you taxes, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the tax period, when you have to submit tax returns, you're going to have to pay out taxes that you didn't pay throughout the time that you were working on a 1099. So the next question is, can a non-resident alien file taxes online? And the short answer is no, unless you meet a residency requirement. The IRS can consider you a resident for tax purposes based on the substantial presence test. And the substantial presence test is basically calculating how long have you been actually residing and working in the United States over the past few years. I believe it's over the past 3 years. It does a specific calculation and it helps you figure out actually whether or not you can file your taxes online using platforms like TurboTax, for example. So when you actually log into Sprintax, it does ask you to type in the dates of arrival and departure from the United States over the past several years. And once you do that, the Sprintax will actually calculate it for you, and they can actually tell you in the app itself whether or not you should be using Sprintax or any other apps to submit your taxes. The substantial presence test, basically the way I would see it is, if you were, say, an international student or then like a graduate student and then an OPT, and you have been working for the past like 3 to 5 years, chances are you probably are already eligible to submit your taxes as a resident for tax purposes. Sprintax helps you prepare the taxes, and you can't actually submit them online. You will have to mail them. But if you do meet that requirement based on a substantial presence test, you may be able to just submit your taxes online.
So I actually went ahead and contacted Sprintax customer service because I wanted to know whether or not electronic filing is possible with Sprintax. The representative basically told me that for now the only option is to mail your taxes in. However, in a few weeks time they are expecting to implement electronic filing option. So for the time being, definitely mail your taxes in. However, hopefully next year's tax returns you'll be able to file electronically. I'll keep you guys posted.
And another important thing I want to point out is that IRS does use postmark rule. The postmark rule means that the day you postmark your taxes, that is the day your taxes are officially considered submitted. So even if they arrive to the IRS, the federal, the state, even if they do arrive after April 15th, because you postmarked them on April 15th, it's not considered late. The other question is, what if I don't have a social security number when submitting my taxes? So if you don't have a social security number, which is normal for a lot of international students, a lot of non-residents, you can obtain something known as ITIN, which is called an Individual Taxpayer's Identification Number. So an ITIN is something that serves a very similar purpose that a social security number does, but it is only applicable for you to pay your taxes. So you cannot use ITIN when applying for like a driver's license or anything. You can apply for an ITIN when you are using Sprintax. So right in the app, they will ask you a question: do you have a social security number? And if not, do you have an ITIN? And if not, do you want to apply for an ITIN if it's your first time? So that's an awesome feature. So what happens if you owe taxes? So you're filling out your taxes on Sprintax and they tell you that you actually owe taxes back. So if you're filling out with Sprintax, they will tell you if you owe taxes back, and you can use a credit or a debit card to pay right on the website. Please keep in mind that Sprintax is not free. They will charge you for preparing taxes as well. So the amount that you have to pay may be a little bit more than you expect. So another thing you can do is you can also pay by mail. You can pay with a payment voucher. So if you choose that option, you can use Sprintax to print out this payment voucher and also mail it to the IRS. Or another thing you can do is you can wait for a letter from the IRS to come telling you that you owe them money, and then in the letter that they will send you, there will be a payment voucher included that you will have to fill out and like pay that way, or they will give you directions how to go to the IRS website and pay online. Okay, so the next thing I really want you to know is if you're an international student, you can go to your school's international student office and request a tax payment voucher. So they can give you actually like a voucher with a discount, or maybe completely take on the price of paying for taxes. So go to your local international students office. I actually had no idea about it when I was an international student, and I always had to pay full price because I had no idea. So please keep in mind that you can go to your school's international student office and ask them for a tax paying voucher. They will give you like a number that you can put in to Sprintax to kind of decrease the amount of money you have to pay for filing your taxes. That voucher strictly applies to one of the tax returns, but I don't actually remember whether it was strictly just the federal return or the state one. So somebody please comment below to let me know if you use the voucher from your school, which one you could file for free. So there is actually a pricing sheet on the Sprintax website on their FAQ page where they outline exactly how much the preparation for state and federal taxes is depending on your status and stuff. So the next question is, what happens if I make a mistake? I actually had somebody ask me, what happens if I have already submitted my taxes but I realized that I made a mistake? Maybe I wrote a wrong date of birth or wrong social security number or something else. So you can actually go to the Sprintax website and you can say that you want to amend your tax returns. There's an option for that, and they're not going to charge you an additional fee for resubmitting if you are changing any information. The most important thing is don't panic. Things like that happen all the time. And another option obviously is if you made a mistake, you may receive a letter back from the IRS a few weeks later asking you to refile because you've submitted the wrong information. There was actually one time that I forgot to actually sign my tax returns before mailing them off, and I got them back in the mail like 6 weeks later saying, hey, by the way, you forgot to sign. So I had to sign and remail it again. But it wasn't, it's not a big deal. Again, just don't panic. Make sure that you review all of the information before you send it off, because that's extremely important. And again, don't forget to sign anything, because when you are filling out stuff like this online, it's it's very easy to forget. You will print it out and then you just want to shove it in an envelope and just mail it off, but please don't forget to sign. The final question that comes up quite a lot actually is what happens if I change my address or I move after submitting my tax returns? In that situation, I highly recommend that you go to the IRS website, to the change of address page, and there's different options that you can utilize. So you can actually call them by phone, but I know it can be very stressful to call. You can also mail in a form, a 822 form, change of address, where you will have to indicate basically all the same information, and you will have to mail that form in. Or you can mail in like a written statement to the IRS. Or if you have changed addresses before you are submitting your tax return, then on your tax return, you just write in your new mailing address. Okay, so a quick personal note is that I used to use TurboTax when I was first eligible to submit my taxes online, and I quickly realized that I actually don't like the service at all. First of all, you do have to pay money for TurboTax preparing your taxes, and you may potentially run into a few problems like I did this year when I was submitting my 1099 NE, I believe, form. TurboTax just wasn't able to prepare it for me, so I actually opted out of TurboTax and I chose to use FreeTaxUSA, and I highly suggest that you check out FreeTaxUSA. That service was just as easy, just as straightforward as TurboTax, and it was honestly awesome. And another quick note is just my personal advice is you definitely apply for a social security number, especially if you are an international student, you've only been here for a year or two, and you're planning to be here for the foreseeable future, such as the rest of your undergraduate career and graduate school, and maybe potentially OPT after. I highly suggest that you receive a social security number because it will make it easy for you in the future, especially when submitting taxes. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Hope this cleared up a few questions for you all. Good luck with your tax returns, and let me know if you have any additional questions, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.